Good evening. Welcome to AAUW's Dual Language Candidate Forum. We are very excited tonight to introduce this forum as the school board forum for the candidates running for school board this year. Thanks to a very generous grant from the Fund for Santa Barbara, we're able to bring this forum to you at no charge and able to bring it to the entire community, both in English and in Spanish, which is a first for us. So if you're joining us and you see the world symbol on your computer or your iPad, go to the world symbol and you'll be able to choose either the English channel or the Spanish channel. Both channels are live tonight. We also have our partners with us from TAP TV, and we are live on Comcast channel 23, as well as KPEG 100.9 FM. And just as a reminder, our forum is being recorded. And on behalf of myself, I'm Lucy Tomes Harrington, and Pam Buchanan, our president of AAUW, all of our board and all of our members, we'd like to welcome you, the community, to this forum. So what is AAUW? American Association of University Women, which was founded by 5 women from Syracuse, New York, who graduated very unusually at that time in 1887 from a university. They were instrumental in joining the suffragettes and fighting for the right for women to vote. And what a great way to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Votes for Women than with this year's School Board Candidate Forum. AAUW is an organization that's open to all genders, and we live to our mission, which is equity for all. The Lompoc-Vandenberg branch is located on the ancestral lands of the Chumash people. We pay tribute to the Chumash elders, past, present, and future. We're coming together tonight as a community following that Chumash tradition to learn and grow together. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the forum structure, and then we'll get right to the candidates. We'll have a very important section after the candidates to talk about how to vote safely in this pandemic. And then we'll talk about some upcoming events. Our forum structure. How do we arrange the speaking order? It was by random draw with the candidates present. The topic areas that we're going to be having questions around were shared in advance, but the questions were not. So this will be the first time that these candidates hear the questions. And where did those questions come from? They came from you, the community. And the community that's on this forum tonight is an impressive community representing all of Lompoc, and we're very proud to bring this to you. Each candidate's going to get 1 question with a 2-minute response after they've had a 2-minute opening statement. Each of the other candidates will get 1 minute to add to their thoughts to that same questions. We'll have a lightning round, which will go to all candidates, and the lightning round will be 1 minute each. And each candidate will have 1 minute to close. Let's meet our moderator. We are so honored to have Mike Phillips with us tonight to moderate this forum, and I can't think of a more perfect person to do it. He's a lifelong educator, more than 40 years of educating youth. He's the English department chair at Lompoc High before he recently retired. He's a facilitator and a presenter for Construct Meaning. And earlier this year, which seems like a million years ago now, he was an AAUW speech track mentor for students. He was a AAUW Judge Liaison and Committee Member for Speech Trek. And of course, he is a strong AAUW ally. So with that, Mike, I'm going to click the next slide so we can show our community the candidates.
Thank you, Lucy. Again, we have 7 candidates vying for 3 spots on the board. They are Mr. Tom Blanco, Ms. Janet Blevins, Mr. Gary Cox, Mrs. Kathy Froming, Dr. Bill Heath, who is seeking re-election to the board, Mr. Martin Casey, and Mr. Alex Murkison. And I want to thank you all for being here virtually. Okay, at this point, I invite each of you to provide a 2-minute opening statement. We will go in alphabetical order by last name. 2-minute timer ready? Okay, Mr. Blanco, you may begin.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. I'm running for LUSD School Board in order to give back to this community that has given so much to my family and I. Having spent 38 years as a teacher and athletic trainer at Lompoc High School, I have had the opportunity to be a member of many committees, groups, and projects. I have been a part of numerous projects at Lompoc High School, including the fundraising, planning, and construction of the Houck Stadium renovation project, where my committee members and I raised $1.6 million. In partnership with Lompoc Unified School District, a state-of-the-art exercise and competition facility exists for the Lompoc community. I have worked with various groups, including Lompoc Unified School District administrators, the City of Lompoc, private business, groups, public entities, and many private citizens. My goals, if elected, are: 1, improving teacher benefits to become more competitive with other school districts in the hiring and retention of quality teachers. 2, continue to work at improving the physical and mental health of all our students. The City of Lompoc currently has the highest obesity rate in Santa Barbara County at 48%. And 3rd, to improve school to work readiness, to improve a school to work readiness curriculum, expand course options that teach students hireable skills, including the industrial arts. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Blevins?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Janet Blevins. I'm a retired teacher with 33 years of teaching experience in both regular and special education classrooms. I've taught 12th grade government and I've taught kindergarten students. For 23 of my 33 years, I taught in Lompoc at 3 different schools, 15 years at Lompoc Valley Middle School, and then 3 years at La Honda and 6 years at Buena Vista. I support both employee unions, and I will listen to and consider the needs of all students, teachers, parents, and administrators. The Lompoc Unified School District faces unique and complicated challenges during COVID-19. The board must keep the safety and health, physical and emotional, of students and employees as the top priority. I'm running for school board because I want to use the experience and knowledge I have gained as parent, teacher, and community member of 35 years to help Lompoc students succeed. I love Lompoc and the people of Lompoc, and I want to give back. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cox, your opening statement?
Hello, I'm Gary Cox. I moved to Lompoc in 1960 and I graduated from Lompoc High School in 1970. I raised 3 kids here who all graduated from the local high schools. I've been a Kiwanis member for 27 years, where I worked on countless projects to raise money for youth activities and community groups. I'm running so I can help and hopefully improve the process for our children to succeed when they graduate from high school. I do believe this is a nonpartisan position and I come with no agenda, but I do believe in working with all people, the classified service employees, the teachers union, and the 3 important departments at the district office, the HR department, finance, and education. And I believe it's the jobs board to oversee the superintendent and work with him and his staff, because they are the experts and they'll bring proposals and things like that to us to approve and discuss. I believe we must listen to all of them because they are the experts and we are the referees. We want to make sure it's a fair game, but the outcome is what we are looking for. I believe it's important for board members to be seen. I believe it's important to visit classrooms, to visit campuses, to visit after-hour activities, athletic events, and adult school education. I believe it's important to get involved with that when it's possible. We had an 82% approval rating from parents on the approval of their education. So I'm not going to sit here and try to reinvent the wheel, only try to improve it. Our children are our future, as we know. I once was a child and I once was our future, but I'm here to tell you now,
10 seconds.
your future. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Froming.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Froming, and 60 years ago, my father's military service brought our family to Lompoc, where the education that my 4 brothers and I received prepared us to graduate from some of the nation's top colleges. We grew up in Mission Hills, and to this day, we still have fond memories of elementary school. The custodian, Miss Nisa, was a friend to all students, and her daughter was the principal's secretary, Shirley Leonard. Many a time did one of us forget 50 cents for the green and white day, only to have Miss Leonard give us 50 cents so we could enjoy our hot dogs. I've spent the last 20 years as a teacher, principal, director, and assistant superintendent. Before that, 15 years as a management analyst at Vandenberg, working for Lockheed Space Operations and United Space Boosters. As your representative on the school board, I will hit the ground running. My familiarity with programs and operations is valuable as we rethink how to educate children in an environment that is safe for everyone. It is clear that a rebalancing of priorities is needed to narrow what used to be termed the achievement gap, but with COVID-19 has become an achievement chasm for our underserved students, such as special ed, English learners, and children living in poverty. If elected, a vision of improved academic outcomes will be the beacon that guides my every decision. I pledge to support teaching and learning in ways that reflect the community's belief that a quality education is what all children deserve, so that they are equipped with the knowledge and the skills to live happy and productive lives.
Thank you. Dr. Heath.
Thank you. My name is Bill Heath. I'd like to thank the AAUW for hosting this forum, and I'd like to start by just sharing a little bit about who I am. I was born and raised in Lompoc, and I attended and graduated from Cabrillo High School in 1980. I've been married to my lovely wife, Becky, for 33 years, and we chose to raise our family here. We have 6 children, 5 of whom have graduated from Cabrillo High School, and our youngest will graduate this coming year. My education includes a Bachelor of Science and a Master of Arts from Brigham Young University and a Doctor of Dental Surgery from the University of Washington School of Dentistry. I've been practicing dentistry in Vandenberg Village since 1992, and I'm a fellow of the Academy of General Dentists dentistry and a member of the Spear Faculty Club. I've given service to my community through Boy Scouts of America, being the Scoutmaster of Troops 166 and 266. I've coached youth soccer, baseball, and basketball, and served on the basketball board for 10 years. And I've been a member of the LUSD school board since 2014. I'm a lay leader of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which I've been a member of all my life. I've been encouraged to run for board again by several key people. And as that decision was made, ultimately it came down to a matter of prayer, actually. I prayed about it and felt like I should continue to serve, that I still have some good to offer our community. So I ask for your vote, and if I'm elected, I commit to continue to serve as I have. And I appreciate this opportunity to share some time with you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Casey, sorry, I skipped over your last name there. Your opening statement?
No problem. Thank you. Hello, my name is Martin Casey, and I'm running for school board to effect change. Thank you to the AAUW for putting this forum together. Please excuse my COVID hair. It's been a while since I had a haircut. Little about me. My lovely wife, Rebecca, and I have been married for 18 years and have two wonderful children who currently attend LUSD schools. Unlike the other candidates, I grew up in Canada after my parents immigrated from New Zealand when I was 5. I worked hard in school to overcome a diagnosed learning disability and received my degree in computer mathematics from Carleton University in Ottawa, Canada. I immigrated to the US in 1998 after getting a job offer and received my US citizenship in 2013. Rebecca and I moved to Lompoc in 2005, being an active member in the community through volunteering and charity. My career started in access technologies, how your house connects to the internet, and the infrastructure that is allowing this forum to happen. I continue to work in this field today. I have a love of learning, figuring out how things work, and reading. My family loves to travel all over the world and take cruises during school holidays. My favorite fruit group is chocolate. My hobbies include collecting and building Lego, playing board games and video games with my children. They are currently teaching me to play Minecraft. I decided to run for school board in February. Several factors led me there. Been volunteering at my children's school in a variety of ways over the past few years: classroom help, PTA events, chaperoning for field trips, school site council. During this time, it became evident that change is needed at the district level to support students and teachers. Learning about the current board makeup made me realize we need parents on the board and people with different backgrounds to get more diverse views. The decision made by the district affect all of our students' education and their futures. I hope you'll support me with your vote.
Thank you. Mr. Murkison.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alexander Murkison. Some of you are probably wondering why you should vote for me. Well, I have 3 simple stances that I have founded my campaign on: establishing better mental health support services on our school sites, improving the youth representation on the school board, and fostering a better and stronger relationship between our students, board members, and district administration. And lastly, bringing better representation around our local diversity and economic makeup of our students and families within our district. When I served as the student rep on the school board, my second semester of high school in 2019, we were presented with a student mental health survey that was shocking to see the results of how some of the students felt on a day-to-day basis. And it saddens me to see that we are a little over a year outside of that, and there really hasn't been a significant change in regards to mental health support services on campuses. On the 2019 LUSD dashboard, it was reported that 67.8% of our students are socioeconomically disadvantaged. Just to make that simpler, out of 9,626 students, about 6,526 of them are socioeconomically disadvantaged. When you have results such as the ones I listed, you should have people on the school board that are a representation of that understand that, and that are willing to put the work in to make the necessary changes to benefit our students in the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we had planned on having a lightning round at the beginning, but thankfully each one of you covered the question already in your opening statement. So we're going to go to our 2-minute questions, which focus on more specific issues raised by the community. Therefore, the first question will go to Mr. Murkison based on our random draw on Monday. You will have 2 minutes to provide your response. Afterwards, each of the other candidates will be afforded the opportunity to respond for 1 minute in order of the draw. So is the 2-minute timer ready? Okay. Mr. Murkison, Santa Barbara County is now looking to enter the COVID-19 orange tier, and schools may soon be able to offer in-person instruction. Considering that many schools in other parts of the country have experienced negative health consequences while attempting to reopen with in-person instruction, how do you feel the district can facilitate a safe and robust return to in-person instruction? What might be some specific metrics and infrastructure that might be needed?
So I believe that safely reopening the schools is a big situation right now, considering we're soon moving into a new tier. I believe that in order to do that, we have to have a solid plan put in place. We have to make sure we have social distancing in classrooms if that is necessary. We have to make sure that there is proper protective equipment on campuses for students and teachers and administrators. We have to make sure that if we need a temperature check, are we doing that? How does that look? How do visitors work out coming onto campuses? And that all kind of comes down to the board and the district administration coming up with a solid plan and collaborating with our county health department to ensure that we are doing things in the correct manner, so that we make sure that we have the health of our students, teachers, administrators at the forefront of what we're doing, and not just opening the schools. We have a plan that is transparent to the community, so the community knows what we are doing, and then taking input from students, parents, teachers, administrators, and really seeing how many people are comfortable with doing so and how they feel about the plan that we have in place. We can't just open a school without making sure that all the factors are put in place for that. And so I truly believe it's input from the public health department, it's input from teachers, students, administrators, and making sure that I can't stress enough, just making sure we have a solid plan that is transparent, that has input weighed in from everyone.
Thank you. Mr. Blanco, you now have the opportunity to respond for 1 minute. 1 minute timer ready. Mr. Blanco, your response?
So I don't think there's anyone on the panel tonight that wouldn't agree that a safe return is the most important thing. We all want our students to be safe. We want our staff and anybody involved with the school to be safe. I mean, I think that goes without saying. That said, the school district has a plan in place. They're ready to roll with it. I've spoken with custodians and support staff. They miss the kids. They're ready for the kids, but no one really wants to risk the health. Our teachers aren't comfortable coming back to school yet, as this pandemic moves forward and we get into a different color category. I think we'll be ready for it with the help of everybody associated with the decision making. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Casey?
I'll second Alex on a lot of that. We need a very clear and concise plan so everyone's on the same page when it comes to returning kids to school, and so parents can make informed decisions about what's best for their family and their situations. I know there's students suffering from not being in school. My daughter is one of them, and I've heard from other families that want their kids back in school, but in a safe manner. One thing I would suggest the district does, once it's communicated a clear and concise plan on how it's working, is have test days with parents to run through the plan. There's lots of people willing to volunteer to show up and run through these plans to make sure they work and there's no shortcomings and they can be adjusted. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Heath?
I agree with what that's been said. I think it comes down to leadership training and implementation. In my own dental practice, I've facilitated a reopening. So I know what it feels like. It's kind of scary to be closed and then reopen, but it takes a lot of work on a consistent basis. You know, for 2.5 months while my business was closed, I was learning as much as I could about what I needed to do to reopen. I was meeting with my staff on a regular basis each week. I was finding out what their fears were, what their expectations were, and then I strived to implement protocols that would meet their expectations. I had to rethink how to bring patients into my office. So there's a lot that's needed. I walked around a school just the other day and see there's still more that needs to be done to prepare. So there's a lot of preparation and it takes consistent effort. So
Thank
I
you.
hope we can do this. Yep.
Thank you. Ms. Blevins.
My response to reopening of schools is that we absolutely need to proceed slowly and very, very carefully. I would recommend beginning with kindergarten and first grade, because those are the students who have the most difficulty with distance learning. And I think that would be a good place to begin. But before we can do that, we need to have enough space. We need to be able to ensure 6 feet of distance between everyone. We need to ensure that we have enough testing. And by that, I mean physical testing. How do we know that there's not COVID in the family and that a student might come with COVID? There are so many things we need to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Fromming.
This is a highly charged question, and I don't think there's an easy answer. Let me first say that I support opening schools according to Santa Barbara Public Health guidance. I also support doing it, as Janet said, in a systematic way. I visited a school site that has opened TK and K, and they plan to phase in additional grade levels. And it was well thought out. There was an isolation tent for potential students who had a fever, the access for parents at the parking lot and how students came in was done well. It's complicated, but I would also say that each individual teacher in Lompoc Unified has their own personal circumstances that must be accommodated with either its comorbidities or an elderly parent or a sick child. So it's not as easy as all or nothing. I think the district has to take into account each individual teacher's circumstance. And as I looked at the survey results from parents who wanted to go back to school, there is an idea or that we could manage teachers who couldn't go into school.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Cox.
Yeah, thank you. All good answers. Some really good points. Janet, excellent point. We do need to get the young ones in school. Distant learning is not good for them. But the problem we have right now is no county school is planning on opening till 2021, according to the health department of Santa Barbara County. We had 5 students test positive for COVID, and they aren't given tests, only teachers are. So until the teachers feel safe going back, we have to find a way to test all students. I don't know if it means getting a grant, getting government money, or what. Maybe somebody at the district knows more about that. But until we can get all testing for all people, it's impossible to go back and keep the teachers safe. And like I said, everybody had great answers, and it's something we're just gonna have to work on as a board. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question goes to Mr. Blanco. You will have 2 minutes to respond. And the question is, the California dashboard shows that the reading and math levels, excuse me, of our students continue to be below standards. How would you like the district to address improving student achievement?
Yeah, so I have looked at the dashboard and the dashboards of every school in the district. The district's own dashboard and every school's. And except for a very few cases, we're in the orange or the red categories. And, or excuse me, orange and yellow categories. And that's really, it's really not acceptable. The answer to that, I think, is to improve our literacy. And early on, K through 2, really focus on getting our kids to read and read well. Really put our emphasis and focus on early interventions with programs, money, and time that the literacy really is what starts everything off in a kid's education. Offering more ability to check out books, making sure that kids, if they fail, aren't shunned and are given a second or third or fourth chance. If they don't understand the language initially, it's a very, very important, maybe the foundation of every school district, of every student is literacy. And we have a lot of opportunities with kids. If we get them at kindergarten, we don't always get kids in kindergarten, and we don't always get kids early on.
Okay.
But that doesn't detract from the importance of literacy.
Okay. Thank you.
Teaching in a high school with kids that don't speak English is very difficult, but it's not insurmountable. If those
Okay.
kids are going to see success, we have, as Alex said earlier, around 70%
Mr. Blanco?
families, socioeconomically deprived families, and a high percentage
Tom?
of non-English speaking. Those are our kids. We have to take care of them, and we can't ignore that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Blanco, thank you. You need to check your feed because you're breaking up and your image is frozen on the screen.
Yeah.
So you may want to, we're going to move on to the next person, and
Yeah,
you may want to check that in the meantime.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Casey.
Was I able to?
There you go. Yeah, you were breaking up pretty badly there. Okay, Mr. Casey.
To improve student outcomes, I think the district needs to get out of the way of teachers and trust what they know what is best for their students and classes. The district needs to support and equip teachers with the tools to teach their students with the correct reading curriculums, and listen to the teachers and take their feedback. They're on the front lines. And I think by supporting teachers and removing as much busy work as possible, will give them more time to focus on the students and get the best possible outcome. And I agree with Tom about intervention teachers at the early grades to help get everyone up right away. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Heath, you have 1 minute.
Okay. To improve student achievement, I think it's good that we recognize that our teachers work really hard, and they always have, and they always will, and they love their students. I think one of the most important things that we recognize is that student achievement has a lot to do with the relationship the student has with the teacher and how well they connect. And also how that teacher feels about the site administrator, and then overall in the whole district, how well the whole district does as far as feeling like the environment is strong, positive, and that they're free to do what they need to do to teach our children and and narrow that gap. I think it's important that we get back to basics, and some of those things have already been said, that we focus on English and math and those basic skills and not get distracted from different learning programs that kind of just fill time, but we let the teachers choose what's best for the students in their classroom and utilize the resources they have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Blevins, your response?
The problem of improving student achievement is huge, and there is no one single answer. All students do not respond to the same reading method. So you cannot adopt a reading curriculum and expect all the students to learn from it. Whole language is a way that some kids learn to read. They can be read to, they can learn their vocabulary, then they can learn to read from that. Many students cannot learn that way and need intensive symbol sound relationship training. I am currently tutoring a 4th grade student who's a second language learner, and I am seeing the difficulties that he faces with vocabulary and with sounding out patterns. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Fromming.
Say that teaching is among the most honorable professions that exists. And I can say firsthand that Lompoc Unified teachers on a daily basis look beyond themselves for the good of their individual students. That said, I must talk about the academic performance in this district in terms of the metric that we're judged by in the county, in the state, and by the federal government. In 2009, on the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, ELA was at 44% meets or exceeds standards, and math was at 29%. I think the school board needs to recognize that that's an issue and make sure that it's a priority, not only in management's evaluations or a metric to judge their success, but also the superintendent's contract, because we can't ignore it. It's not everything. I wish we didn't have standardized testing, but it is a problem that we have to address.
Your time has expired. Thank you very much. Mr. Cox, 1 minute.
Thank you. I agree that you need to have English immersion in kindergarten through 4th grade, because we have 75% in Lompoc High are Hispanics. And if they don't grasp the English language at an early age, then they aren't going to continue their success. So we do need more English and math, but especially English in the first few years. Analogy I would use is it's like an athlete. As you start out in a sport, you're given all the attention, all the coaching, and all the tools you need. And as you progress through the system and become more acquainted, you need less coaching and less time and less supervision. If we give them more immersion in English when they're younger, that's going to set them up for more success when they get into high school, where we start judging them.
10 seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Murkison, your response?
Thank you. I have to say that I 100% agree with Mr. Blanco that we do need to have more intervention early on with math and reading primarily to help get those kids up. I know from personal experience, we don't realize it ourselves as a student until we're at the end, it's graduation or something of the sort, and we realizing that we've kind of been falling behind over the years. It happened for me personally. But not only that, when you look at the dashboard, and this goes back to my mental health stance. Dr. Heath, you said that students are, I agree with you, you said that students are willing to learn more and be more involved when they have a good relationship with their teacher. 100% agree with that. The other end of that is they learn more when they have a good relationship with themselves. And so when there are still mental health issues, which our students deal with so often, that's something we need to provide support services for them. And once they are happy with themselves and with their environment, they'll 100% will be better at will achieve at a higher rate than what they were.
Thank you. Our next question goes to Mr. Casey. You'll have 2 minutes to respond. To address recent social challenges within our society, new curriculums, viewed by many as controversial, have been developed, such as the 1619 project and the ethnic studies curriculums currently being revised by the State Department of Education, as well as the new health curriculum adopted by the state. What are your opinions or concerns on these curriculums being brought into our schools?
Wow, good question. For the 1619 project, I've heard stuff about it, heard good and bad from people, different views. I think learning from our mistakes, the ugly and the truth in the back, in our backgrounds, helps us to not make the same mistakes in the future, learning from history. And if you ignore parts of history, you're bound to make the same mistakes again. For the health, I, as a parent, would like to know what's being taught, especially on the sexual health. And I understand we've been given the option to excuse our children from that curriculum if we so choose. And the school board is supposed to send out, or the district sends out letters to you as a parent. So I don't think that is big an issue for me, because we as a parent can ignore it or ask our parents or kids to be excused. Ethnic studies, I think, are great. I've traveled all around the world, and knowing and meeting other people from other cultures is awesome, because you learn a lot from different people and different experiences and backgrounds. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Heath, you have 1 minute to respond.
Okay. Although all these things are part of the curriculum, I think my first comment is that I think they're somewhat of distraction from the basic things we talked about in the last questions, the reading, writing, arithmetic. I think that distraction takes away from the overall education of our children. I think some of these things I frankly don't agree with, because it's hard to judge what's happened in history by our own context. I mean, we all strive to do good and be good. I think that's part of who we are as human beings, but it's hard for us to judge what's happened in the past. And then, because we don't have the context, I think we need to teach the greatness of our nation, of our history, the good things that have happened, and instill the pride in our country to our students. And that's my feeling about these other social challenges. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Blevins, your response?
I don't think we can separate the present from the past. I think we are living through a huge time of reckoning. And I think that everyone needs to understand what happened after the Civil War that kept all of the slaves who were supposedly freed in servitude, one way or another. And the ramifications of all of that are with us today, and they will be with us until we realize that it exists. Institutional racism is with us. It is in our school district. It is not intentional, but it is part of the system. And we need to recognize it, and we need to move forward by recognizing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Fromming, you have 1 minute.
Well, I'm concerned that the number of mandates coming from the Department of Education really crowds out the basic kinds of learnings, the students' ability to read complex text and to do math. We have new standards for computer science. ethnic studies, I believe, is being taught at Lompoc High School. It's a new course, and I'm glad that it's an elective, but mandates I would be concerned about because they crowd a teacher's day already. So as far as social challenges, I don't think we can separate those from students' everyday education. We can interject communication, collaboration, creative thinking in everyday classroom lessons, and as well as stories about social challenges. So it's a difficult question, but there's already so much that teachers have to do.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cox.
If you eliminate our history, then how can we keep learning and studying it and try to do the opposite of what we have done? We need to keep improving as a society. There is racism in our society, but you can't put a blind eye to it. And that's what I think you're doing if you implement 1619. As far as the health goes, it seems like the parents are sort of dictating what they think about it. At Lompoc High, only 2 parents out of all the kids taking health opted out for their kids. So apparently the parents are okay with it. So I'm being elected by the parents. I'm representing the parents and students. So it sounds like that health is kind of in. So that's kind of what I have to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Murkison.
I think that ethnic studies is a very big thing for the time we are in right now. Just for example, from the beginning of the year until now, we're in such an amazing movement right now where so many young people are coming up and want to know more about their history and want to know more about social issues that are going on. And so while I agree with Mrs. Froming that it probably shouldn't be a mandate, but an elective course, 100%, so many kids will be willing to want to learn more about their history. I know I would. It was a struggle for me in high school, not really learning more about my background, my peers' background, especially in a town where we are predominantly full of people of color and minorities. It's something that's needed. In regards to the health curriculum, I think, it's a simple parent decide, do you want your kid to be part of this or do you want your kid not? We can't section all the kids to learn just one simple thing. There are so many kids that are different, especially in the time that we're in now. And so just a simple, do you want to be part of it? Do you want your kid to not be part of it?
Thank you. Mr. Blanco, your response?
In response to the sex education, health education, at one time, Lompoc Unified School District had the lowest pregnancy rate in the county and about 3rd in the state. And that was because of some far-thinking teachers that started a realistic conversation with our students at Lompoc High School and then later at Cabrillo. It's mandatory in my judgment that we offer that subject. It's so important. On the other side, we're living in trying times. I've been the recipient of racism. I know how it feels. I didn't like it, and I didn't know how to deal with it because it wasn't really discussed at the school that I went to. So,
Thank you.
Along with Janet, we have to we can learn from our history, and it's what kids are interested, especially secondary kids.
Thank you,
They're
Mr.
very
Blanco.
interested in what's going on right now in this country.
There continues to be a problem with your audio. You may want to
Thanks.
check that, see if you can't get a fix on that. You're cutting in and out.
One
Sorry
suggestion, which
about that.
I don't know how that may work out.
I have a lot of people online right now with me.
At my job, what we recommend is turning off your camera, and sometimes that improves the audio quality, but not sure if that's what the direction you want to go.
Yeah, there is like a lag going on. Okay,
Yeah,
our
and
next.
apology.
No, No worries. I just want everybody to be able to hear you clearly so you can get your points across. So I hope that you can get a fix on that somehow. Dr. Heath, next question goes to you. You'll have 2 minutes to respond. What do you perceive should be the top budgetary priorities for the district? And is the district LCAP, for our audience, the Local Control and Accountability Plan, appropriately aligned with the goals and actions of LUSD?
Okay, thank you. The LCAP is what helps us align what our fiscal responsibilities are and helps us prioritize our resources. In order to ensure that we have proper funding, we have to be careful with what we have and see how far it can go. What are the biggest needs? I think back to student achievement. What can we do to support the students to learn more and do more? One issue that's been on the hot topic within the district has to do with the bond, and it's pretty well known my stance on it. I was not supportive of it, but it's not that I don't recognize that there's a need to improve our facilities. I think improving our facilities is an important thing to do, but I need to be convinced, and I have yet to be convinced, that the dollars that we already have are not utilized well. So, so I think we need to reduce the number of go and learn conferences, but focus on in-service, focus on transparency, be careful about contracts that are easily given out, and really be more fiscally responsible with the money we have, and find programs that go back to teaching the basics of education, and then supporting our teachers in the classroom with the resources they need to carry this out. So I think it's interesting that we talk about saving money in one end and then keep hiring more people. So
10 seconds.
Okay, so anything that we can put into increasing student achievement is a worthwhile and the first priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Blevins, 1 minute.
I believe that our priority needs to be, budgetary priority needs to go to teachers and to materials that will be appropriately used during this time. And I think that teachers are expected to be mom, dad, and everything else often. So they need all the support they can get. Right now, the district has several, I think 7 special education teachers who do not have credentials in special education. And I'm here to testify that special education is difficult enough when you do have proper training. And so those teachers without the training need to be supported. And instead of just maybe one aide in their room with their kids, give them 2 or 3 more. Give them what they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Froming.
The local control accountability plan was premised on robust stakeholder engagement. And I think the district does a good job in aligning priorities based on stakeholder engagement with funding. I'll give you an example. The first LCAP, the district went out and asked folks what they wanted. And there was real concern generated around the condition, the cleanliness of our campuses. As a result, 14 custodians were hired at the time because that's what the stakeholders wanted. So I think the district continues to engage stakeholders. One thing I might add, is that we have to do a better job in reaching our Hispanic Latino community. The parent contract, or excuse me, survey that went out recently had 11 responses, and there are 67% Hispanic Latino families in the school district. So we need to figure out how we're going to capture what they want.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cox.
Thank you. LCAP is 17% of a $116 million budget. And if 80% go to teachers and 17% to LCAP, that doesn't leave a lot left over for facilities, for equipment, for computers, hiring extra people like that. So there has to be some readjusting somewhere in there. And I agree, we have to take care of the handicapped kids. We have to get those teachers help. We have to improve their quality of life. And also, the board doesn't make the budget. We are given the budget by the superintendent, and then we are to take the budget and figure out if it's correctly administered. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Murkison.
I will have to agree with Mrs. Fromming that definitely finding a way to foster a better relationship with our Spanish-speaking families. Definitely the results from the survey that the district put out were kind of a shocker for me. But when you look at the LCAP, the 1920 LCAP, the first goal was finding ways to improve ELA scores and SBAC scores, and ELA and math preparedness and things like that. And so that is obviously a big thing. We need to find ways to make an improvement with those things, because as the dashboard showed, we are lacking in those areas, as we just stated a few questions back. But also, this always goes back to my main campaign stance, is mental health. When our mental health of our students is in line and we are supporting them and their needs on campuses, on school sites, we have a chance to improve our dashboard scores and help students achieve at a higher academic level.
Thank you very much. Mr. Blanco, are you ready?
I hope so. I have a daughter trying to log in right now on her computer. I think it's a computer issue, but I will go forward with the answer.
Why don't we go with Mr. Casey, see if you can get that done real quick, and I'll come back to you. Would that be agreeable to you? Okay. Mr. Casey?
So I agree with many of the other candidates that student achievement is #1 priority, but in reading the LCAP and looking at it, I don't see feedback mechanisms built in to track and make sure we're spending the money and tracking how the money is being spent and seeing that it's being effectively used, so we can make adjustments to programs that are doing better or doing worse for the students. So that's where a fiscal responsibility would come in. And the other priority would be the facilities, hearing from many teachers and staff members that there are certain stuff, or I'd say infrastructure, that they can't even get spare parts for anymore that need to be replaced. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Blanco, let's give it a try.
I'm going to try. Hope by the next question I'll be better.
Okay.
So I would be in favor of a new bond if we had better oversight of the money that was raised, was brought in as part of the last bond. You know, I personally just feel the money was spent.
We can't.
How
You're not
about I
coming
pass
through.
on this one?
Okay.
I'll pass, Mike.
Okay, that hopefully you'll have your situation fixed fairly soon. We'll go on to the next question.
Say, Mike, this is Lucy.
Yeah.
Tom, how about if we just kill your video and see if the audio improves? Are you willing to try that?
That would be,
Sometimes that helps. Okay. All right. Let's see if the audio improves.
Can you hear me now?
Oh,
Yes.
much
Any
better,
better?
much better.
Okay. My daughter is trying to hook up her computer. So, you know, she had an okay education at Lompoc High School. Let's see if she can figure it out. So, to answer that question,
1 minute
I
timer.
would be in favor.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would be in favor of a bond if the oversee
Oh.
of that spending was nothing.
Tom, it's not working out. Yeah, we can't hear anything. So hopefully you'll get, yeah, we'll pass on this one and hopefully by the next one, she'll have you up and running. Ms. Blevins, the next question goes to you. And it's on a similar strain with finances. What is your position on pursuing another school bond?
Our schools are in such terrible disrepair that we must pass a bond issue.
Oh.
When I was in a classroom, I've been retired since 2009, but before I retired, I had
that's a good
ceiling
idea.
tiles falling off
I
of the
don't know how
ceiling
to-
onto my workspace. And I know that there are tiles at Lompoc High
Well, it's a
School on the
panelist
floor
member. He's
that are
gonna
loose,
Call in on the panelist.
and
number.
they are made of asbestos. And when they start to crack and break, that creates friability, and that's when asbestos is dangerous.
But
So
he
the
won't be able
idea
to do
that we do
because
not
he's a
need,
panelist.
I also had a whole professional library
Yeah, I'm positive of
ruined
that.
by a
He's
leaking
got-
roof
he's
in my
got two
classroom at
daughters, And they're all
LVMS.
taking, and they're both taking
And
classes simultaneously.
This is just
Right.
not acceptable.
So
I am
I'm
afraid
gonna
that
see
the
if Pam
reason,
can call him and ask him. on
Lucy, you're
his
coming
invitation
through.
If he could see.
Lucy, your
the
mic
same
is
thing.
on. Janet, your mic is off.
I don't know how that happened. We are in desperate straits. The schools are in terrible repair. If we want to go back even after COVID and turn on the HVAC systems, it will be a disaster because they haven't been upgraded in decades. Our schools were built in the 60s. You cannot keep a house. I mean, I can't pay for a new roof on my house just with money I save. That has to be put on time. And that means a bond issue. And we need it absolutely desperately, and we need everybody in the district to support it.
Thank you. Mrs. Fromming, your 1 minute response?
Well, the last bond I supported, but I have to say the pandemic has altered my viewpoint for any bond in the near term. We are facing an economic tsunami in California, and I absolutely agree that the conditions of our facilities are dire. But the truth of the matter is, I don't see a bond passing given the circumstances of the pandemic. This would be our fourth attempt. I think we're going to have to make do for a year until we see the lay of the land, because absolutely we are going to have a fiscal challenge in the year ahead. And I can't see the community who is unemployed and facing all kinds of debt passing a bond in 6 months. So
I didn't mean now.
Thank you. Mr. Cox, your response?
Thank you. Yeah, definitely we need to get some money. And the only way you can do that is through bond. And with interest rates as low as they are right now, even though I don't think one would pass in the near future, we need to consider that again, and maybe the way it's written where we can, have shorter term and pay a little more so we don't have that 20 years out thing. We need to hopefully get a shorter bond. And unfortunately, with all the landlords, they tell their tenants their rent's going up if the bond goes up because it's based on property taxes and property owners pay it. So it's really hard to get that passed, especially in this environment. But we need to do something. We need to find something. And I'm not an expert on bonds at all. But if I'm elected, I think that would be one of my priorities with the board and with staff at the district to find out what we can do to work something out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Murkison.
I think a bond measure is something to look forward to down the line, agreeing with Mrs. Fromming that right now with the current status of a lot of families in our town due to COVID and the pandemic, it's kind of not a good thing to try to pursue now, but our classrooms, as Mrs. Bluffton said, are desperately, and the school sites are in desperate need of help. I know for a fact, just recently graduating from high school, I don't know if it's family members, but one of the moments when she came into the ASB room to ask us about the SAT testing, a tile fell right off the wall behind of her. And so there definitely is a need to improve the classrooms, but right now for our bond measure, I feel like it's an interesting, to the time we're in, I don't think we're quite ready to try to shove a bond measure down. I think we need to give it some time and see how the economy does before we try to pursue with that.
Thank you. Mr. Casey.
I agree with many of the panelists. Bond measure today is probably not the best thing or wisest investment of money to try and get one passed. That money could be better spent improving our schools and doing much needed maintenance right now. But I do agree in the future, a bond measure needs to be explored and written properly. I opposed the last one because it seemed like much of the money was not going towards schools, but going to the people who wrote the bond measure and we're going to help pass it. And that's my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Blanco, are you settled in there? We'll go on to Dr. Heath.
Okay, I'm grateful for a few moments to respond. I agree with a lot that's been said. I'm fiscally conservative. I'd like to see better use of the money that the district already has to help improve facilities, but I'm not blind to see that we need to improve our facilities. As far as a bond, I'd like to say the reason I believe it hasn't passed in recent years is twofold. There are people like me, and I represent the constituents, not the district, that feel like we should make do with what we have. We're getting to the point where we need to get some help, but yet combined with that, we need to trust those that are making the decisions on how the money's spent. I think the combination of fiscally conservative people and a lack of trust with the district leadership is the reason our bonds have not passed. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to share that and look forward to the time when we can improve our facilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Blanco, are you there? I think we may have temporarily lost him. Lucy, maybe you can try to see what's going on with him. So we'll go on to our next question. Mrs. Fromming, this question is for you.
Okay.
You'll have 2 minutes to respond. How will you ensure that the relationship between the district and teachers is constructive and conducive to building trust? How would you ensure effective communication and transparency among all stakeholders, including the board?
So with the teachers, I think there needs to be a culture of respect and appreciation. Top-down management is not going to get us the results that we need. I think having been a principal for 6 years at Vandenberg Middle School in 2008, when there was a financial meltdown. I use this example because I think it's powerful. We had no money in 2008, and yet the staff rallied around the idea that education needs to be transparent to funding. Our children of Lompoc deserve an education, whether or not we have a bond issue or Prop 15 passes. And so I think we have to appeal to people's sense of honor and why they're doing this job, and appreciate what they're doing, and I think communicate more regularly. Even the bad news, people just want to ensure that they can trust what's going on. I think there's been a lot of public discourse regarding lack of transparency with the district, and I don't think through any necessarily malevolent way. We just have to do a better job with letting people know what the plan is, what we're going to do, and inviting their participation in decisions. That doesn't always mean that we will select options or make decisions that they're happy with, but being part of the process is what's important. And I also think we need to do a better job with soliciting the stakeholder involvement. That includes parents and all stakeholders, because if we get a true picture of what people want, we're going to do a better job with educating the kids in Lompoc.
Thank you very much.
Say,
Mr.
Mike, this
Yes.
is Lucy.
Uh-huh.
We've got Tom on the phone, so I think we'll be able to carry an audio.
Okay.
So I think we're ready to try that when you are.
All right. We'll get there. Okay, Mr. Cox.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely imperative that the teachers and the classified employees and the district heads, they have to talk. It's inexcusable if they aren't having communications now. It almost sounds like Kathy's information, her being a teacher and me not being a teacher involved in teaching or the district now, that could sound like a problem. If that is, that's inexcusable. Maybe the board needs to come up with a policy, a meeting policy, and implement that, where assistant superintendent meets with the board and the union representative and the classified unions representative. And maybe we need to do that quarterly to make sure we're all on the same page, and let them have their input. And they ought to have their input when the budget's made up at the district office. I'm sure the union members have people on the financial committee, and if they don't, well, they need to. So yeah, communication definitely is the key. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Murkison, 1 minute.
I agree that communication is a big part of this, as well as building, rebuilding the relationship around the trust between a lot of the different levels of district employees. Also agree with what Ms. Fromming said about the culture and respect and appreciation. When things run so much more smoothly, when you have a good line of communication, and people are not afraid to voice concerns or opinions that they have going on, or just simply giving feedback about what they are experiencing, especially our teachers, since they are every day, day by day, dealing with students and interacting with students. So just having a good communication and level of trust, and holding people accountable when situations do kind of go awry and we have some problems. And so that's just a big thing: communication, trust, and holding people accountable.
Thank you. Mr. Blanco, ready? Did you get the question?
I think I am. I don't know what the question is though.
Okay, let me go through it with you. Okay, how will you ensure that the relationship between the district and teachers is constructive and conducive to building trust? How would you ensure effective communication and transparency among all stakeholders, including the board?
Well, first of all, you know, as you can tell, I'm not very good with technology. That said, I have found the district website, hard to navigate. I think the information is there. If I dig long enough, I can find it. So transparency to stakeholders, I think, has to start with easier to find information on our district's website. Also, as far as communicating within groups, the school board and the administration, as Gary said earlier, I believe in getting out and walking schools and talking to people and being accessible to the people that voted for me if I'm in. So, you know, there's face-to-face. I like phone calls more than I like text messaging, and I like easier to navigate websites that has information readily available.
Thank you. Good to have you back.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No worries. Mr. Casey.
I have a lot of thoughts on this, but I think the biggest one is everyone needs to be felt and heard, that their opinions matter, and it's not dictated to us. One big frustration in my household was how the distance learning schedule was dictated to us with random lunch times for everybody in the home. I have an 11 o'clock and a 12 o'clock lunch in my house. That is not conducive to family time or stress during the day. Another thing would be a clear, defined review process for the board and for the superintendent. But I'd also love a superintendent who lived in town and was out visiting school sites, and we currently don't have that. And as a board member, I would be pushing tremendously for our superintendent to be living in our town and out visiting all the schools and getting to know all the teachers. And that would help build a lot of trust.
Thank you. Dr. Heath, your response?
Communication is really important. I think a key component of communication on all levels, from the district office to the sites to each individual teacher, is a willingness to listen. And as a board member, I've striven to listen to all who would speak to me and try and understand their plight. I think there's a challenge that we have that some people don't feel listened to that work in our district. And when we don't empathetically listen to someone's concern or someone's idea and it's dismissed, they feel marginalized and it doesn't feel good. And we need to change that climate within our district. People need to feel like they can give input and be heard. And not everybody's going to agree, but when somebody's heard and feel like they were listened to, they feel like they tried, and they'll feel better about what happens, even if it's not what they want. So I think listening is key.
Thank you. Ms. Blevins, your response.
Listening is essential. However, you also have to have someone to hear you. Currently, our administration at the district level is not open to communication with community members or teachers or the rest of the community, and that is a very, very big weakness. People feel that they don't trust what's going on because they don't have the information that they need in order to make a judgment. There is an atmosphere of secrecy, and it is the opposite of openness. And there are plenty of board policies, but they're just not being followed.
Thank you. Our final 2-minute segment goes to Mr. Cox. And the question is, what are effective procedures and/or criteria for evaluating the performance of the superintendent and the board itself?
Well, first of all, the board hired the superintendent. So I'm assuming they had criteria when they hired someone. I'm sure they interviewed him, wanted to know where he was going to live and things like that. His financial background, his past positions he's held. I'm sure they called his previous employers. So if there's some disgruntled with the management over their superintendent, then it seems like the board didn't do their job. So I would, if that's the way the board would want to go, I would be willing to look at anything. But also I'm willing to work with anybody to get them corrected and be a team and let them know what they want. I've heard a lot of complaining tonight from people who have been employed by the district, and why don't they go tell the superintendent through the board so the board can act? Like I said, the board's the referee. The board makes things fair. And if the superintendent isn't doing his job, that's 100% on the board. They need to do the research with the union leaders. They need to do the research with the teachers, with principals, with teachers and parents, and find out what their opinion is. But 82% of the parents agree their kids are getting a good education. So there's some conflicting information coming here. So yes, I think the board needs to get to the bottom of that, because that seems to be a topic that sort of keeps coming up. So I really can't answer if he's doing a great job or not, because I'm not in that circle. But boy, that sure would be one of my top priorities, to look into that and try to get it straightened out to begin with, and then go from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Murkison, your 1-minute response?
I believe that any evaluation can simply be, for one that we use at the Midland School where I work, is that we simply send out a survey to all employees and have them respond how they feel like the leadership is doing. And so send out a survey. How do we feel like the superintendent is doing? Do you agree he's doing a good job? Do you not agree? And if you don't, why? And if you do, why? And then for the board, the same thing. Send out a survey. Do you think your board members are doing their job that you elected them to do? If not, why? And if they are, why as well? And you really take those opinions, because we all agree that we are elected by our community, and so we really need to value what they say. If they feel like we're not doing our job, or the superintendent is not doing his job, we need to really listen to why they have those feelings, and then go from there with the rest of the evaluation process.
Thank you. Mr. Blanco.
Yeah, so I think right now that the sitting school board has the ability to evaluate and send in regular evaluations of the superintendent. If that is something dictated by the county Board of Education, so be it. If not, if it's something that school board members have a say in developing question-wise, then absolutely the school board should develop that. I don't know if it's something that is mandated question-wise towards the superintendent, how he's evaluated, but everybody needs to be evaluated from the top to the bottom. And it's the only way to maintain accountability. The superintendent was hired among other candidates to lead this district. It's his main job, and it's his top priority. Of course, he needs to be evaluated. How that happens, I think there may be some legal implications there, and maybe Mr. Heath can answer that question.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Casey.
So I think, yes, the superintendent needs to be evaluated with clearly defined goals, which for the district, which come from the board. And he works towards and can measure it against those goals. And for the board, that also involves a review process of us as a board member, if I'm elected, in setting the goals and working to see that they're fulfilled. And this all gets back to communication and transparency. These are public matters for the ratepayers to know. And they need to be able to call the board out if we're not working towards a set district goal. And we need to respond and to communicate why goals have not been met and how we're going to address them. And everything is a learning opportunity when it comes to evaluations. I believe back in June or one of the board meetings, there wasn't a formal review process for the superintendent in place, and I want one. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Heath, your response?
Yeah, as a board member, we represent our constituents. Our primary job is to hire the superintendent and then to hold him accountable. And that, you're right, the evaluation process is necessary. The problem on the existing board, I believe, is that the superintendent runs the board, not the board running the superintendent. He's been very skilled at manipulating how things work for the board, and we have only done, in my 6 years as a board member, we've only done one evaluation. So, and it's true, we need to establish clear goals, but there's also basic tenets of evaluation that include, but not limited to, a superintendent's attendance, his visibility, his involvement in the community and the schools, and his evaluation of our site administrators. So the board needs to improve the evaluation process and do it.
Thank you very much. Ms. Blevins?
Yes, my understanding is that there are not the votes on the board to go forward with an evaluation of the superintendent, even though there is a board policy that says it shall be done annually. So that is what I based my former comment on, that there are plenty of board policies, they're just not carried out. When this superintendent came to this district, the first thing he did was give a pink slip to every principal in the district, so that they were all nervous about, am I going to have a job next year or not? He also has told teachers or has told principals who are supposed to relay to teachers not to talk to board members. You're not supposed to talk to board members as a teacher. There is no transparency. There is no accountability.
Thank you. Mrs. Fromming, your 1 minute response?
Well, the board's accountability comes from voters. That's how we're voted in. And the superintendent is the CEO of the school district, and he answers to the school board. So it really is incumbent upon the school board to evaluate the superintendent every year. It should be a process that goals are established, you work to those metrics and see where you were successful. Take, for instance, student achievement. That should really be an integral element to a superintendent's evaluation during the year. So I would have to say that it's not the superintendent's fault that he did not get evaluated. I think that was an oversight on the part of the school board, because it's supposed to be an annual evaluation. So if I were elected, that's exactly what it would be. We would establish goals and priorities and work to those. And many school districts have the superintendent's evaluation online on their website. So it should be something that is a secret.
Thank you. As much as I would like to continue with some quick response questions, we've used up our allotted time. So that concludes our questions for the candidates. Now each candidate will be allowed to give a closing statement for 1 minute. Please, candidates, be aware of the time. We will go in alphabetical order. So, Mr. Blanco, your closing statement?
Two things. First of all, I apologize for my technical difficulties on my end, and I want to thank the AAUW for this time and opportunity. That said, if I am elected, I will bring my years of educational experience, knowledge of school and district workings, and my various collaboration skills to the school board for the sole purpose of putting kids first. I will stand up for all students of this community, and I will work with fellow board members, LUSD district administration and staff, parents and students to produce college or work-ready students that will compete worldwide. Thank you for your time this evening. I look forward to Election Day.
Thank you. Ms. Blevins.
If I'm elected to this school board, I would have every single board meeting translated into Spanish and try to get the 2/3 of our district parents involved in the board meeting and in what goes on. And if that happened, they would start, The Hispanic people in the community, the Latinos would start talking to each other in their communities. They would get more interested in what's happening. They would feel more a part of everything. And we would see that make a difference, since 2/3 of our district students are come from Spanish-speaking homes. I think that is essential. I think it would make a huge difference in people feeling invested and a part of the district. I know that that might mean we need to change board meeting times for people
Thank
who
you.
work 2 and 3 jobs.
Thank you. Mr. Casey, your closing statement?
It's time for students and teachers to come first. I have the confidence, knowledge, and necessary experience to bring forth change for our students and teachers need. I want the best for our students and teachers. I will bring a fresh perspective to the board on 21st century education. I invite you to check out my webpage and our candidate page on Facebook to learn more about me. If you have more direct questions, I'm more than willing to answer them. You can just Google Martin Casey, LUSD, and you'll find links to my stuff. I'm asking for your vote and support to be a member of the LUSD School Board. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cox, your closing statement?
Yeah, thank you. Now, my yard sign says children first. It's the only one of all the yard signs I've seen that said children first. I believe children have to come first. To do that, we have to reach out to parents. 75% of them are Hispanic in Lompoc. We have to get them involved through adult education too. We have to eliminate wasteful spending so we can spend the money in the K-6 schools to get the kids immersed in English so they're comfortable in our system and can excel once they hit junior high and then take off. That's what we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Froming.
First of all, thank you to AAUW for this opportunity to share our views on different issues facing Lompoc Unified School District. And I would also like to acknowledge each and every one of the candidates. Political office is not for the faint of heart. Many of you I've known for the last 50 years. And it's exciting to see a young man step forward and be involved. So kudos to Mr. Murkison. But to everybody, thank you for your interest in this community. I think everybody's heart's in the right place. For me personally, I believe my experience is right for the time. I'm not a pessimist, but I'm a realist, understanding that in the next year, we're going to face some fiscal challenges that require someone who understands program and operation and LCFF, local control funding formula, and how that works. So I would like to be a resource for the board as we move forward and navigate what's going to be some trying times in the coming 18 months. So again, thank you, everyone. I appreciate your interest in making the education for Lompoc.
Thank you. Dr. Heath, your closing statement?
Yeah, I'd like to thank the AAUW again for sponsoring this event and all the other candidates. It's good to hear your views, and I wish all of you the best. It's been an honor to serve as a LUSD board member for the last 6 years. My intent is to make sure kids get a good education in our community, that the teachers are respected and valued to the level that they need to be, and that there's a cohesive effort where the whole district feels really good about what happens here. I've been told that I'm the voice of reason on the board and that people appreciate the votes that I've had or the things I've said, even though I've not always been on the winning side of a vote. I'll continue to listen. I'll continue to ask questions. I'll continue to serve in the manner that I have for the past 6 years. And I ask for your vote to continue to be a member of the LUSD Board of Education. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mr. Murkison, your closing statement.
I want to thank AAUW and everyone involved in hosting this forum. I also want to thank the fellow candidates for being able to have a healthy and much needed conversation in regards to where our district is running and our individual visions and hopes for the district. Lastly, I want to thank the community of Lompoc for asking the hard but necessary questions to ensure that you guys all make the correct vote on November 3rd. My entire campaign is built on bringing a new representative, diverse, and young voice to the board that better represents our students and families. As I stated earlier, 67.8% of our students are socioeconomically disadvantaged, and I'm a product of that. I will be a candidate that holds people accountable, that is willing to do the hard work to create the change our district desperately needs to better support staff, students, and families. My campaign is not just a representation of my personal hopes to accomplish something, but to show my peers and community that it is possible for young people of color to create change. My campaign represents a win, not just for me, but through the Change Will Act, a win for all students who feel underrepresented to know that someone is fighting for them.
Thank you very much. That concludes this portion of our program. On behalf of AAUW Lompoc-Vandenberg branch, I want to thank all our candidates for their responses, and I appreciate them providing our community with invaluable information to assist in their voting. So at this point, Lucy, I turn the program back over to you.
Thank you, Mike. And thank you again to all of the candidates as I get in here to slideshow mode. Here we go. So just as a reminder, we get an opportunity, all of Lompoc gets an opportunity, Vandenberg Village, Mesa Oaks, Mission Hills, we all get an opportunity to vote for 3 candidates for school board. So that's just a reminder as we go into this important section of tonight. And that is, how are we going to vote safely in this pandemic? Well, the first step is we got to register. If you haven't registered already, you still have time. You can go online all the way to the 19th of October at registertovote.ca.gov. If you don't make that deadline or you choose to go in person, you can go in person to register at the Vets Hall. That's where the Santa Barbara County office is set up, effective this week. And they're working Monday through Friday, 9 to 12 and 1 to 4 to register people. So come in, if you want to come in person, under the right precautions, do it. Register online if you can, safest way possible, but whatever you do, register. And that's a good looking picture of the building everybody knows is the Vets Hall. So now that we're registered, now what? Let's vote safely. All of us are receiving our ballots in the mail. Some of you already have, which is awesome. And the rest of us are going to receive our ballots in the mail. Now you've got them, now what? Well, you can either vote at home or you can vote in person. If you're like me, you like to vote at home, you grab one of these, a coffee cup, you roll up to your kitchen table, you put your ballot out there, you think about things and you think about candidates and you research the propositions and then you vote. And after you vote, you put that ballot in the envelope, you seal it, you sign it, and you date it. And now you've got some choices how to return your ballot. Well, you can put it in the mail. And if you choose this option, mail it early. It already has a first class stamp on it. Or you can return it via a drop box that the Santa Barbara County Elections Office have established in 4 locations this year. Here they are. I like doing this option because I can go anytime I want, day or night. The metal box is the one in front of City Hall where it's located. We have 2 at each of the libraries, downtown and also in the village. We also have one at the Santa Barbara County Department of Social Services on Laurel. The last option to return your completed ballot would be to drop it off at a polling place. And for those who want to vote in person under the right safety precautions with the mask at a distance, you can find your polling place on your ballot itself. And for the first time, the polls are going to be open 3 days before Election Day. So they open up on Saturday, October 31st. The hours of operation are from 9 to 5. It continues on Sunday, November 1st, from 9 to 5. Monday, on November 2nd, the polls are open from 9 to 6 p.m. And on election day, November 3rd, they're open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So our power is our voice. Our voice is our vote. So vote safely this election. And with that, we're going to take a little poll to get some feedback on tonight. So if that poll could be launched, please.
You did not enable me.
I will launch the poll. So thank you for continuing to vote. Getting some good results. All right. We're about, looks like about 80% there. And so we'll close this poll. And I'll share the results. We got great results. People appreciated the fact of hearing from these candidates, and they also have a plan to vote safely. So many thanks to the Fund for Santa Barbara for enabling AAUW to bring a dual language candidate forum to focus on a very important election, which is school board candidates for LUSD. It's important to our whole community, to every youth in our community, and to our future. Many thanks to Tom Blanco, Janet Blevins, Martin Casey, Gary Cox, Kathy Froming, Bill Heath, and Alex Merkinson. I can't imagine the gratitude of this community for your willingness to serve our youth. So thank you. Mike Phillips, thank you for being an awesome moderator. And to Greg Ratcliffe and Bill Smith, who are in the control rooms of TAP TV, thank you for your partnership. A huge thank you to Yvette Peralta, our interpreter, who's doing live interpretation for this forum. To Win Clevenger and Tim Harrington, our timekeepers. We had a great crew working behind the scenes for the planning of these forums. Alice Down, Morel Brooks, Pam Buchanan, Barbara Bolton, Elena Jones, and Mike Phillips. And also we have a little bit of technical team working behind the scenes, and thank you to Pam and Kari. And what's up next? What's the next opportunity? The next opportunity is to vote safely. Our power is our voice, and our voice is our vote. So thank you from the nonpartisan organization of AAUW. We're fighting for equity for all. And I hope that you be interested in being a member or an ally. You can hit our website to see what that would take. So thank you and good night.